Hello, Salem, and welcome to CC Media Presents Our Community Matters. I'm your host, Clark Hilton. We're glad you're here. For a lot of us, this is the most wonderful time of the year as we move from late fall into winter, conjuring up images of a cozy home, a fire in the fireplace, and an endless supply of pumpkin spice and peppermint mochas. And the holiday season is upon us too, bringing joy, laughter, gatherings with family and friends, and a multitude of twinkling lights. But this is not the case for everyone. For many, it's the most difficult time of the year, as days grow shorter, the nights longer, and the weather stormier. This change in seasons and our clocks turning back an hour can set the stage for SAD, Seasonal Affective Disorder. And the holidays themselves may not bring much bliss for a litany of reasons. Our guest today is Jennifer Chun. She holds master's and doctorate degrees in human development and family sciences and is a qualified mental health professional at Marion County Health and Human Services. There, she's the program manager for the Adult Behavioral Health Program. She joins us to talk about SAD and issues surrounding holiday depression, how to recognize symptoms, and when to reach out for help if you or a loved one are struggling. Thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Chun.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's dive right into this with seasonal affective disorder. What is it? What are the symptoms?
Sure. So seasonal affective disorder is major depressive disorder that's recurrent, and it's triggered by the change in seasons. Most frequently, it starts around fall or winter and then goes on through winter.
And I know that, I've got friends who enjoy it being more dark, having more dark hours than light. They like having more rain. I don't understand this myself. But not everyone struggles with SAD. That's the bigger thing. So what causes this form of depression?
Sure. That's a great question with a complex answer. So part of it is serotonin production, and individuals that experience major depressive disorder have lower levels of serotonin that's produced by their bodies. In the winter months, when it's darker, we're not getting as much sunlight. Our skin isn't exposed to sunlight. We're not outdoors as much. And that can result in lower vitamin D levels. And vitamin D is important because it helps us produce serotonin and helps us regulate it. Now, another thing that happens as it gets darker is it affects our melatonin. Now, our bodies naturally produce melatonin when it gets dark, and that causes us to feel sleepy and go to bed and go to sleep at night. As the winter months approach, we have shorter days and it's darker for longer hours, which means we produce more serotonin. So for somebody with seasonal affective disorder, they're going to have a lot more serotonin, be much more fatigued and sleepy. All that taken together, serotonin and vitamin D and melatonin, it's going to affect our circadian rhythms. So what that is it helps us, it's like our internal clock that tells us when it's time to be awake and when it's time to be asleep. And so if our circadian rhythm is affected, we're going to feel a lot more fatigued, tired, less motivated, have less interest in doing activities, and altogether just more down.
So I hear the term serotonin a lot. What is it?
Yeah, so it's a neurotransmitter that is produced. There's different opinions whether it's produced in our gut or our brain, but essentially our brain processes it. It helps us regulate our mood. It helps us have feelings of happiness.
Okay. You talk about melatonin. That's what makes you sleepy and everything. And yes, a lot of us feel like hibernating this time of year. Yeah. But there's got to be some clues, right, that something may be not right. So when should someone seek help with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if someone is feeling depressed for most days, for a couple of weeks, and there are other symptoms of depression, like not wanting to do activities, not being interested or having pleasure from them, having a hard time concentrating, or having thoughts of suicide, they're going to want to get help. So the first thing to do would be to contact your healthcare provider to see what they can do. If someone's having thoughts of suicide, though, I would recommend going to the emergency department, or Marion County Health and Human Services runs a 24-hour psychiatric crisis center that people can access for assistance.
And as far as seasonal affective disorder is concerned, it almost sounds like it's not really a diagnosis itself. Is it? It's more like a form of depression. Would that be a way of?
Yes, it's major depressive disorder that's recurrent. And what's unique about seasonal affective disorder is this type of major depressive disorder is it's triggered by those seasonal changes.
Okay.
And so it's going to occur most seasons, most years for people during those seasons. And that's how we're going to distinguish that it has that seasonal, that the seasons affect somebody's mood.
Does it get worse for some people as they age, or as it goes on, or does it pretty much stay the same every year?
I think it depends. It can get worse for people. I think that, we have some years where our winters are worse and it's darker for longer, so that can affect it. But I think the biggest dependent is whether someone's getting treatment and doing things that are going to help the depression and make it better.
Okay. What treatment options are available for depression like this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that people can do, actually. Sunlight is a big one. So being outdoors during the daylight hours and getting that sun exposure. Absolutely, I think that's a great idea. I don't know how people in Hawaii would feel about that. Or opening up the curtains so you get more sunlight in the house, sitting next to the window to get more sunlight. If that's not possible, there's light therapy or phototherapy, so special lights that kind of mimic the sun and give you that exposure. Especially helpful in the morning, helps you wake up and start your day well. People with seasonal affective disorder, taking vitamin D can help, like a supplement. And starting some of those things before the onset of depression can be really helpful in preventing it, or at least maybe making it less severe. I think it's important to eat a healthy, well-balanced meal. There's some research that talks about processed foods causing more depression, so it's important to eat whole foods and less processed foods. And then if you're to the point where it's really interfering with your activities, seeking out a healthcare professional to look at an antidepressant, seeing a mental health counselor can be really helpful.
Does this affect all ages, or is it more like adults?
Yeah, it's more, the onset is most common between 18 and 30 years old. It's not as common in children. So between 18 and 30, but people can experience it past 30. That's just when it's most likely to start.
Interesting. I know that I haven't been diagnosed with SAD, but I find that light therapy this time of year helps me in the mornings. Now, I don't know if that's just me thinking it's helping or if it's actually doing something chemically in my brain, but it is helpful because the longer I have lived in Oregon, and I've been here my whole life, at this point I'm like, when it gets dark, I struggle with it now more than I did, when I was a kid, definitely, and a young adult.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful for a lot of people. I'm from Hawaii, so Oregon is much different for me, especially in the fall and winter, so I'll use my light in the morning to help wake me up.
Sure. So it's not just a seasonal affective disorder. The holidays, they're actually not happy for everyone either. First of all, is there an overlap between these two depression types? And second, why does depression tend to increase during what would be seen as an often happy season?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of overlap between the two, but I think some people can also experience some holiday-related depression because there's some things that happen at the holidays that can be triggers to decreasing mood or increasing anxiety. The American Psychological Association did a study, and I think they found somewhere in the 50 or 60% of individuals experienced higher rates of stress in the holidays, so I think that can be a big trigger.
So what are some of the symptoms that you might see? I mean, I'm sure there's some similar ones, but say someone isn't affected by seasonal affective disorder, what's going to trigger them during the holiday season, or what would we want to look out for in ourselves or maybe a friend or loved one?
Yeah, so some of the symptoms are going to be that depressed mood, and it's going to be most of the day for most days. When it lasts more than 2 weeks, that's where we start getting concerned. Sleeping more or sleeping less, changes in appetite with weight loss or weight gain. I think during the holidays and with seasonal affective disorder, we're more likely to crave carbs and sugar, so it's usually going to be more weight gain. Not having as much interest in doing activities, or just not doing them. Withdrawing from people and not wanting to be social with your family and friends. Having a hard time concentrating or trouble making decisions can be a symptom as well. And then inappropriate or excessive thoughts of like guilt or worthlessness can occur, and thoughts of death or suicidality can occur with major depressive disorder.
I imagine another trigger might be loved ones who are gone, especially maybe after that first holiday season since they passed.
Absolutely. I think for people that have suffered loss, missing their loved ones, wishing they could spend time with them over the holidays. For some, it might just be anniversaries of difficult things that have happened. Some people don't have people to be around, so I think loneliness is a big trigger for depression. And then if we think of all the stressors, I mean, travel stress, busy airports and traffic jams and jet lag, or the high expectations that we place on ourselves during the holidays, comparing ourselves to what we see in the movies and on TV and social media, Instagram with all those beautiful things that people have set up for the holidays, and trying to achieve that, we set unrealistic expectations for ourselves. For some people, it might be financial strain, overspending during the holidays and anticipating those high credit card bills that are going to come in, or stressful family gatherings, just doing too much sometimes.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean if you don't want to spend time with Uncle Larry that you're suffering from holiday depression, but I suppose that if you do usually enjoy spending time with him and you're starting to drift away, that might be a good point of, something's not right here?
Absolutely, yes.
So what are some strategies then to cope with holiday stress and depression?
Yeah, so I think setting realistic expectations of what you want to do and can do, that's not going to overwhelm you. Maybe you don't bake 10 different kinds of cookies and you just do 5 different kinds. Being able to set boundaries and be okay with saying no if you don't want to do something. I think also not giving into those holiday pressures and comparing yourself to what you're seeing on the media. Getting out and doing fun activities, being outside, maybe even things that aren't holiday related, going skiing or snowshoeing and just being outside, and definitely spending time with family if that is what fills you.
So what you're saying is it's not like a Hallmark movie.
Not for everybody. For some people, perhaps.
Sure. When should someone seek outside help if they notice, I'm stuck here and I can't get out of it?
Yeah, I think just then, when they feel stuck there and can't get out of it, when they feel like their symptoms are affecting their ability to do their daily activities and do life, they should definitely seek help. And then, of course, if they're having thoughts of suicide, seeking out emergency services, so emergency room or our psychiatric crisis center.
So we've talked about seasonal affective disorder, then depression someone might feel during the holidays. Then we come out of the holidays, right? And I remember working at a radio station years ago. So first of all, December 26th, the wheels of commerce have moved on to New Year's Day, or they're talking about Valentine's Day already. I noticed with this radio station I worked at, we tried to ease people out with playing Christmas music beyond Christmas Day, just because the change can be so shocking. I'm not sure how much that strategy works now with radio stations playing Christmas music starting in October, but it does feel like there is a very sudden culture shock to, the holidays, talked about them, celebrated them, anticipated them for a month, and then the day after, oh, it's over. People must suffer from some post-holiday sadness, yes?
Sure, yes. I think it's exactly what you described is, the holidays can be filled with joy and excitement and things we're looking forward to, and we're doing those things, and then all of a sudden it stops. And so that is over. And then also, I think when we experience stress, we release adrenaline. So if we're doing a lot of things and going, we have all this adrenaline happening. And then when the holidays are over, that decreases and we can hit a slump. Also, sometimes some people overindulge during the holidays and eat a lot of amazing food, and that junk food can affect our mood. So that can have an effect on it. And then exhaustion from doing so much.
Yeah, I imagine so. And just like you said, things just stopping when you've been go. You had mentioned something a little bit earlier too, like overspending can be a problem, and then those bills start coming due. Is there something that would be a smarter way of celebrating holidays that doesn't involve, huge credit card bills?
I think being able to set those limits and expectations. What can I do? Or doing smaller things, or narrowing down your Christmas list if that's what you need to do. I think people are really understanding if you say, hey, I'm not exchanging as many gifts this year.
Yeah, and I have noticed too in more recent years, maybe post-COVID, that the gatherings are a little more important now than they used to be, and maybe that's something that helps as well.
Absolutely.
The best ways to combat this post-holiday stress when January, February roll around and it's still dark outside?
Yeah, I think it's important to take really good care of ourselves. So making sure that we're getting enough sleep and quality sleep, eating healthy foods, so whole foods, limiting processed foods. Exercise is a big one. It's important. Getting outside. I think some activities that help people with around exercise, yoga is really beneficial. That breathing and mindfulness is important during yoga. That can be helpful. And I think something that I've heard is really helpful is making plans for after the holidays. So we make all these plans during the holidays, but what are we going to do after the holidays to look forward to, and then throughout the year?
Sure. Well, I think that's pretty helpful advice, especially as we move out of the holidays and need something to look forward to. I wanted to give you the opportunity before we close today, if there's anything else you'd like to add or that you think is important as we consider what we've talked about today.
I think people being comfortable with reaching out for help is important. Mental health and mental illness can be really stigmatizing for some, and it can be a hard step. It can be hard to reach out. But I think it's important in our society to really normalize mental health and mental illness, and to feel like it's normal to reach out and say, hey, I'm not doing okay and I need to talk to someone, or I need to talk about meds and see if that's appropriate for me. We all go to the doctor for our physical health to have checkups, or when we're not feeling well. And I think it's okay for us to admit we're not feeling well mentally, and we need to go get checked out and get some support.
I think that's very helpful advice and something to definitely do in the new year if you are struggling. So I want to thank you so much, Dr. Chun, for coming in and talking with us about this today, and I hope that you have a very nice holiday season yourself.
Thank you so much. You too.
Absolutely. And as you've heard today, self-care, it's important, and it is okay to ask for help when you're struggling, whether during this season or any other. You are not alone. Call or text 988 or visit 988lifeline.org for free, confidential support 24 hours a day, because you matter. Thank you for joining us, and remember, our community matters. We'll see you next year.